Today, I'm joined by Stephen Nuñez. He's the lead researcher on guaranteed income at the Jain Family Institute. The group works a lot with government policy analysis. And Stephen, if you could just briefly explain for us a little bit more about your role.
Hi, thanks for having me. We are an applied research organization in the social sciences in New York City. And guaranteed income is cash transfer policy. Safety net policies like the earned income tax credit, like child allowances that are provided in many countries around the world. We do research in the field, including in the United States. We are the lead researchers on the recent Compton Pledge guaranteed income experiment. And we provide guidance and results to lawmakers to help them build and improve on the cash safety net and find the way to best fit that into a broader suite of programs.
And as you know, Stephen, and so many people know, Americans can soon expect to receive stimulus payments from the latest COVID relief bill signed by President Joe Biden this week. Well, another aspect of that bill is, of course, the child tax credit, an amount up to $3,600 per child. But how does the child tax credit work?
Well, it's building on an existing child tax credit, but it adds some additional features that I think are real game changers in terms of child poverty. It takes an amount that's about $2,000 and moves it up to $3,000 or $3,600 per child, depending on their age. It makes the tax credit fully refundable. It removes the work requirement, meaning that even families that don't earn much income or any income, even families that are currently non-filers of tax for tax filings can receive it. And it will make those payments periodic, which means that you could be receiving checks on a monthly or quarterly basis. Right now, the IRS is currently working out the logistics of those payments. The estimates suggest that this is going to cut child poverty in the United States by roughly 40%. And it also brings the United States into line with what many other countries are doing around the world. Canada, the UK, and Germany all have what we call child allowances and have had just really great results in terms of combating child poverty. I think in a lot of ways, this is a repudiation of and a rethinking of welfare reform from 1996. That was when we created, the TANF program, Temporary Assistance for Needing Families. That's something that we usually call welfare in the United States. That's time limited and work conditioned. And I think over the years, we've found that means that children don't get aid when they need it most, during recessions, when work is scarce, or during personal emergencies for the family. And we realized that it makes a lot more sense to provide cash unconditionally to households to help children. And not just because it's good to help children, but because it actually seems to have a great impact on the economy more broadly. Recent reports suggest that child poverty costs the United States somewhere between $800 billion and $1.1 trillion per year. So cutting child poverty by a third, by 40%, by 50% could have huge impacts on the economy as well and could easily pay for itself from a taxpayer perspective.
Well, Stephen, you really touched on my second question about how that would impact the American economy there. And I do want to ask you, because this change really is only for this tax year. However, many Democrats would like to see it further expanded. So what would it take for something like that to happen?
Well, right now, it is a one-year program, deficit financed. And because of the terms of the reconciliation bill that it was passed through, it can't be made permanent. In order to be made permanent, it has to actually have pay-fors during the relevant sort of budgetary time window. Richard Neal, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, has suggested that we would like to make this permanent. And for the last several years, the Democrats have been talking about making a child allowance a permanent part of the safety net. And in fact, this builds off of Senator Bennett's American Family Act. So what that's going to entail is going to be some sort of tax increase or cuts to other programs. They might take some inspiration from what Senator Romney recently proposed for his child allowance, which is in broad strokes very similar in terms of the amount, the generosity, and so forth, but had suggested pay-fors, including removing some tax deductions and cutting the federal TANF block grant in order to fund a child allowance. So I think these things are going to be under discussion going forward. But I think the administration and the Senate and the House all seem to be in alignment at the moment that there needs to be a discussion about how to make this permanent going forward.
And Stephen, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't discussed today?
Well, I think one thing that's very important to understand is that this is going to be a heavy lift to get into place. They're doing this right now through the IRS. The IRS doesn't typically make monthly or quarterly payments and has in many ways been defunded over the last decade. So they're asking the IRS to set up a fairly logistically challenging program. I think another issue is that because it's being done through the tax system, people need to file in order to get these benefits. We know that maybe 35–40% of children in poverty live in households that don't typically file taxes. And those headline numbers on child poverty are not going to be manifested unless those people realize that there is aid available and know how to apply for it. So I think there's going to be a big push from nonprofits and from government, from VITA sites and so forth, to try to make sure that people understand that there's aid out there that's available. In the long run, I think we need to have a conversation about how to administer these benefits, I think in a much more streamlined way that produces less burden for recipient households. So there are proposals like the Mitt Romney's proposal and others that would eventually see this shifted to the Social Security Administration and be sort of like Social Security for kids. And I think administratively, in the long run, there's a lot to recommend to that approach. And I think it's something that policymakers are going to be discussing as they think about how to take this temporary program, learn from its implementation, and then eventually turn it into something that it will take on a more permanent role in our safety net.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much for breaking all this information down for us. And hey, you can find even more details about the child tax credit in your CBS local online article. Katie Johnston for CBS Local News.